One thing I did want to ask you was, how did you get your daughter into flying?
So it's funny you ask that because people always say, oh, how'd you convince your daughter to get into flying and all these other things? And the reality is I never tried to convince her to fly. I wanted to keep her interested in it. But
Yeah.
essentially what I did was, I was getting into aviation. I was, sharing the things that I was doing with her. And when I was getting involved with like youth flying and youth aviation programs, I signed her up for summer camps like down in Pensacola, the Chappie James Flight Academy. And she participated in like Legacy Flight Academy events. But as a single dad, it was kind of hard. The biggest thing for me was balancing, work and balancing, wanting to do philanthropy and get involved in the community and also have time for my daughter. Instead of trying to keep those things separate, the biggest thing I did was I kept those things really interconnected.
Yeah.
So when I was doing a lot of the volunteering and things I was doing, I had her participate with me. And when she was 8 was the first time I took her flying. For her 8th birthday, I took her flying.
Yeah.
And from then on, it was just keeping her around what I was doing and keeping her around aviation. And it wasn't even that I was like, oh, I'm trying to get my daughter to fly. It was I was sharing my passion for aviation with her.
Yeah.
So she could, so I wanted her to, if anything, I wanted her to see what passion looks like. And I wanted her to see what it looks like to really be committed to something and put your energy and effort into it. So she really gravitated towards that. And from that, the people around her were the ones who were really giving her the bits and jewels about aviation and how to get involved in everything. Because as we all know with kids, I could tell you something her 50 million times. But once you tell her something, then she's like, oh, yeah, flying's cool. I'm like, I've been telling you that for like forever. But someone else says it. Now you listen because that's how kids do.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? So one time we were at I was in Valdosta, and I put her in charge. She was in charge of one of the team building stations, so she was helping with the TLP, and she was there helping out, participating, and she really enjoyed helping and participating. And there we had Civil Air Patrol there, and Civil Air Patrol talked about what Civil Air Patrol does and everything. And after that trip, we came home, and she told me, "Hey, Dad, I want to join Civil Air Patrol." Be honest with you, I figured it was just one of the things that she was like. I was like, yeah, whatever, because kids always see something, they're like, oh, I want to do it. And I was like, all right, if you really want to do it, you can do it, but it's a big commitment. So I wanted to really make sure she actually wanted to do it, because previous to that she was like, oh, probably a year or so before, she's like, oh, I don't want to join RTC and I don't want to wear a uniform or none of these things. Whatever they had told her there, whatever other people had convinced her that, hey, you should check this out.
Yeah.
So she went to Civil Air Patrol. She went to the meetings, and the craziest thing was she went to her first meeting, and she came back home and she said, well, Dad, they have a lot of good programs, everything, but I'm the only black kid there.
Yeah.
I'm the only, girl that's a minority there. And I was like, okay.
Yeah.
She said, I don't know how I feel about that. And I said, well, this was kind of a hard thing for me as a parent, because part of me wanted to say, suck it up, don't worry about that. But the other side was, I also didn't want to be one of those parents that like forces her to do something.
Yeah.
I was like, I'm going to expose you to it and help guide you in the decision, but I don't want to force you to be somewhere you don't feel comfortable, But her response after that was really showed that I had, done the right thing, or at least I felt I had been doing the right thing. She said, well, Dad, since there's not a lot of diversity in there, and I'm just going to have to fix it. Or I'm just going to have to get more people, from school or my friends to join Civil Air Patrol so that they can have more, more people that
look like me.
Look like me.
Yeah.
So, I kind of smiled a little bit, trying not to get too excited. I was like, that's what I'm talking about, So that was really exciting for me, just watching her see that there was a problem and wanting to change it. And, we sit there and when you watch a kid sometimes, you'll see them through things that you do. And you're like, man, I didn't even tell her she should do that. But the thing was, because of all the people that I kept around and all the different type of programs she was in, it was natural for her to do that. Like she didn't even, for her, it wasn't even a thought. It was, all right, this is what I'm supposed to do. And it didn't stop her from trying hard. It didn't stop her from anything. And she didn't use that as, oh, I didn't get this because I'm this or that. She just recognized it was something. And so she was like, I'm just have to be really good and get more people to participate. So she became one of the recruiting officers in her Civil Air Patrol squadron,
Yeah.
and helped increase the number of kids, that look like her in the organization, which was cool. And she did that without like alienating anybody or making people feel like, oh,
Yeah.
y'all are causing this to happen. And I think that that's something that a lot of people can learn from, because all she did was increase, the scope in which they did their recruiting.
Yeah.
In Civil Air Patrol, she didn't do any bashing of,
Yeah.
y'all just don't. She just went and said, "There's a problem. We just need more people that are
Yeah.
from different places."
Yeah. Because it's not a cultural or a white, black, whatever issue. It is, a lot of people are just not exposed to this.
Right.
And she understood that because you allowed her to be around certain people, certain programs. And I love the fact that you said something and it stuck out to me immensely, and that was you shared your passion with your daughter.
Yeah.
That makes a world of difference.
Yeah.
It really does. Yeah.
Yeah. So when it came to flying, it was definitely, I put the opportunities in front of her. When she was younger, she didn't express that she wanted to be a pilot or that she wanted to fly. She was like, I want to dance, and I want to do acting, and I want to do performing arts and things like that. And I was like, that's fine.
Yeah.
You can do that. And she's like, I want to be that. I want to be a lawyer and all these other, so there was a lot of things she wanted to do. And this was just another thing I exposed her to.
Yeah.
And so she just stuck with Civil Air Patrol. She did some programs with the Air Force. So she's done a lot of things where it was, I just kind of put her around the right people and just kept motivating her. But I didn't convince her. Convince would be a hard thing to say, because I didn't have to convince her. Like now I just have to, I'm just helping guiding her at this point.
Yeah.
So, her goals right now, she wants to be a F-35 pilot.
Yeah, we talked about that at the LFA event.
Yeah.
She said F-35. I was like, nah, get an F-22. We're the only one with it.
Right.
We're the only one with it. You want that?
Yeah. So it's interesting because although she's into flying, I'm really excited about the fact she's into flying, but I'm more excited about how much of a leader she's become doing these programs that she's done, because she's been part of a lot of programs. Yeah. She's stepped up and volunteered for a lot of different things. And in Civil Air Patrol now, she just became our squadron commander in her new unit. She's been there for a year.
Yeah.
And, she's running the squadron.
What I like most about this is the fact that she identified an issue. She came to you not asking for help, but saying, I need to fix this. She essentially already came to you with an answer to a problem. And to me, that's leadership.
Yeah.
That's true leadership. And you didn't do anything just super special other than just keeping your daughter around you and sharing your passion with her.
Yeah. Yeah, that's it. And all I did was she came to me, how do I do this? And I was like, well, you see how the things that we do. So,
yeah.
I'll give you a little bit of advice, but these are all the things you can do. You as the one leading it, you got to make it happen. And watching her take the things that she's seen from the people around her and coming up with ways to solve problems is I'm very excited about that. Like she's a great leader amongst her peers. It's
amazing, man, what true fatherhood is. We talked about it a little bit a few days ago, man. And when it comes to fatherhood, to me, all right, let's take it a step back. Because we talked kind of about our personal stories, and we don't have to get into them a whole lot if you don't want to, but I could never not be in my daughter's life, and coming from a single parent household, after you have a child, or me, I know after I had my daughter, or my wife and I had our daughter, it's like, no, no matter what happens, I'm going to be there. Mm-hmm. And for me, I could never understand how somebody could make a child and not be there. Yeah. And for a long time, I kind of blamed myself and wondered if it was something that I've done wrong, or maybe it was me as to why my dad wasn't always there. And I just never really understood why. We've never really had that conversation as to why. And I feel like what ends up happening is a lot of times that affects us so much later on. Like now, it's sometimes where I'm still kind of affected by not having my dad there. And you don't even realize how much it affects you until you realize how much it affects you. So Yeah, man. I definitely. Yeah, we got to talk about
Yeah,
that.
that's true, man. Like, I couldn't imagine not being there for my daughter. Even though me and her mother aren't together,
Yeah.
there hasn't been a point in my daughter's life where I wasn't there. Even if I wasn't physically there,
Yeah.
for whatever reason, because military, whatever. But I have, there's not a point where I was not part of her daily routine or her life where she would ever be like, "Oh, my daddy's not there. I can't believe my daddy, isn't."
Yeah.
And I feel you. Like, there's no way you want to be in it. You could leave your child. I don't see it.
Yeah. And now I look back, and my dad, my dad and I, we have a better relationship now. But for a long time, I blame him wholly. Like it's him. No, it's just him. Now that I'm older, I can understand a little bit more that it's not just him, right? Because he has a dad. His dad has a dad. He has friends. And now I take into account that my dad, he grew up a certain type of way. And we always talk about being a product of your environment.
Yeah.
So my dad was a product of his environment. And the same way for me. But now I have people like you. I have mentors. My life is taking on a totally different life form than the path I was going down. So now, yeah, my mindset is a little bit different. Would he be there if he had great mentors or if his mindset was transformed like mine was? I think he would. I really think he would. But that still doesn't take away the pain.
Nah, it doesn't. And you can speculate all day of what could fix it. And sometimes we sit there and think, well, if these things would happen, then things would have been different. Yeah. And that's trying to create something that's impossible, because it could have been all the right circumstances, and it still might not have changed anything. And that's us trying to put these things that could have been there, tries to give us back control of what it should have been like, when really we have no control of what could have happened. We weren't that person. That was their decision.
Yeah.
Because there's nothing in the world that will stop me from being from my kid, period.
Yeah.
No one had to convince me of that. No one had to tell me it was the right thing to do. Sometimes I had people who taught me ways to be a better father. My biological father, I didn't know him till I was a lot older.
Yeah.
But I was raised by my father that, raised me since I was 9 years old.
Yeah.
And he adopted me as his son, since I was little. So
yeah.
I had someone who raised me, but the crazy thing for him, his father was in jail growing up the whole time. But for me and him, he was there. That was the thing that was important to me. He was there. He was the one I watched.
Oh, I see. Yeah, you're connecting the dots. So it doesn't matter.
It doesn't matter. As far as the level of what you do as a father is always going to change. Like, a lot of times you'll see fathers or even sometimes mothers who say, oh, if you were do this, then if you loved your child, you would do this. Or if you loved your child, you would do that. There's no way to one, you can't tell somebody what it means to love your child.
Yeah.
But as far as being there for your kid, there's only one person that matters when it comes to if you're there for your kid, and that's your kid.
Yeah.
Your kid has to know you're there for them, regardless of what everybody else thinks in the world.
Yeah.
Whether it's you're there part of the time, some of the time, whether you live with them or don't live with them, there should never be a point where your kid thinks that my dad's not there.
Yeah.
Or, that you're not there as a father. And it doesn't matter whether you live in the house with a kid or not, because there's people who live in the house with their father who don't feel like their father's there for them. So there's a lot of factors in the world, but there's no way for you to determine what could have been or how things could have been.
So what are you saying? So for anybody going through that, do we just let it go?
Let it go. That's a tough one, because pain from your childhood never goes away. Anytime you always goes back to what happened to you when you were a kid that really like determines your life.
Yeah. And I feel like sometimes we can kind of make excuses for that.
We do. Because we try to make excuses for why certain people weren't in our lives by saying, well, this is why they weren't there. Because we don't want to believe that they just didn't care. We don't want to believe that they didn't care, and we don't want to believe that they didn't make us a priority or didn't make you a priority or anybody.
Yeah.
We don't want to believe that.
Yeah.
We want to make an excuse because we don't want to take that, what did I do wrong?
Yeah.
And you know, a lot of people think, well, when you're a kid, you know, that ends when you're a kid. That, oh well, he's not there. You know, you feel like that when you're a kid, but when you get older, that doesn't go away because you still go back to that.
Yeah.
You know, people have those issues that go into, you know, far into adulthood, into parenthood, and you know, it's one of the things that it doesn't just go away. You don't just get over it. You learn how to identify what it was, and it's like anything. You got to learn to cope with it. You got to not necessarily just deal with it or forget about it, but you got to manage that feeling.
And it's hard, man. It really is hard. One of my worst fears, one of my absolute greatest fears is that my daughter would look at me the way I looked at my dad for a long time, right? Because we didn't develop a decent or a good relationship until I was about 25, 26 years old. And you know, there were times where I hated my dad because, you know, he was abusive to my mom, and he was just never there. And when he was there, he wasn't there. And it's hard because that is my greatest fear now, because I don't want my daughter to hate me. You know, I want her to be, I want to be the hero. And that just, having that relationship with him or lack thereof has affected me to the point where this is my greatest fear now.
Well, realize you have a girl, so at some point she's not gonna like you.
Yeah.
So accept that part. But the way you looked at your father wasn't hate. It was probably more disappointment than anything.
Yeah.
Because you're gonna like your parents, not like your parents at times. Your kids are gonna like you, not like you, and you just gotta look at ask yourself, why did I look at him like that? And just try to focus on making sure that you're just there for your daughter and not gonna do anything that you would be disappointed in yourself. But also realize that you're human, so you're not gonna be perfect. But when you look at the whole picture, you want to ask yourself, am I there for my daughter? Can I honestly say that I'm a good father without making excuses? You know, will my daughter look at me and say, yeah, my daddy, you know, he wasn't there, or is she gonna have to make excuses for you? That's really the thing. Ask yourself, is my daughter gonna have to make excuses for how I treated her or my family?
Mm-hmm.
And if your daughter has to make excuses, that means that, you know, then maybe that's something you could look at, you know. But that's a really, you know, a big fear, just because that's based off of how you felt. But don't be that person.
Yeah.
Be someone that's different. The thing is, you have the full, you know, you have the capability and power to, you know, not be that person.
Yeah. Yeah. Our community has to do a better job at getting mental health and like taking mental health seriously and actually going and getting therapy for things, because it's a stigma associated with getting therapy and mental health. And, you know, our community, you know what? Not all communities got to do a better job at getting therapy. We really do, because this might not have been my greatest fear if I would have went and talked to somebody about this and kind of figured out why, pieced it all together, and came up with a plan for it to fix it.
Well, and even think about this. You said your greatest fear, right? What is fear? Fear is uncertainty and lack of knowledge about something. You're usually afraid of something because you're uncertain about something, and you have no knowledge, and you lack knowledge on it.
Yeah.
You are fully aware of what you're capable of with your daughter.
Yeah.
And you have the knowledge to be a good father and the capability to be a good father. You're not, you know, there's some fear in just not knowing what's going to happen next as far as what you need to do to be a father as she grows. But, you know, that you have it may be an unhealthy fear if it's, you know, if it affects you too much. You know what I'm saying? But yeah, you're right. When it comes to mental health things, we got to, you know, we want to take that stuff serious. And when you have, you know, things that are affecting your life like that, you want to seek help. I mean, you want to, and there's a million ways you can do it. A lot of us think that you got to go to a psychiatrist and sit on a couch, you know, to be able to get help.
Yeah.
I mean, it can be anybody. It can be, you know, it could be talking to a pastor. It could be talking to, you know, it could sometimes, it's taking an active role in understanding that you want to get, you know, an issue resolved.
Why is it a problem though? Because there's nothing wrong with that. But why is it a problem to go and talk to somebody about an issue that you're having that's affecting you mentally?
It shouldn't be, but if you think about, think about in the military, That's something I think that we're still working on how to get past that, and I think there's been strides in the right direction for that. But if you're a flyer, if you're an aviator, and you feel like if I go and tell somebody something's wrong with me mentally, they're gonna take me out of flying.
Yeah, I'm done.
I'm gonna lose my job.
Yeah.
So that's one fear right there. And like I said, I think we're working to be able to kind of minimize the effects of those, but that's a fear that people have.
Yeah.
And so that's a stigma that is going to be hard to get rid of when it comes to your certain careers. You see when people get out of the military, though, there's more people that do seek help because people have PTSD, people have other issues that they deal with, and because it's diagnosed and it's not going to affect their job, they tend to be more open to it because they know that it doesn't affect them and their career and their ability to take care of their family and so forth. So that's kind of my opinion on it is just we just don't look at that. And then as in the black community, we're like, I'm too tough. I don't need
pride. I
don't need nobody, telling me, that I had issues when I had daddy issues or I got these type of issues.
Yeah.
I'll figure this out. Just be strong. So that's something that just be strong is not really a way to deal with any problem. It just causes a lot of issues that come along with that. So.
Yeah, I feel like it causes it causes more compound damage than help. You think you're doing yourself a favor by being strong, but you are taking an issue that probably wasn't even that big, and over time that problem becomes bigger. It compounds and it comes bigger, or this happens, something small happens, and you're just throwing these small issues on top of a small issue, and it snowballs.
Yeah, it snowballs because you don't want to address it. You're like, I can just deal through it. I'll just plow my way through it. I don't want to talk about my feelings. I don't need feelings. What I need feelings for?
Yeah.
I'll be all right. And you end up dealing with it in the wrong ways.
Yeah.
And sometimes people don't realize that getting help will help you find ways to deal with whatever issues you have in a healthy way.
Yeah.
Because those issues that you have, and we all got issues, turn into other things, turn into things that are unhealthy, turns into substance abuse, whether it's alcohol, drugs, over-the-counter pills. And not saying that everybody goes that way, but it could lead to that. It could lead to lashing out in anger at people you care about. Mm-hmm. It can lead to a lot of things that are unhealthy, and finding a way to healthily deal with that. Why would you not professionally go get somebody help? I mean, we professionally get people to help us do everything except for mentally get help. I rarely, if something was wrong with my car, I'd probably go to a mechanic who knows what they're doing. A lot of people will spend all sorts of money on a personal trainer to make sure their physical body is straight, but will not make sure their mental body is straight.
Yeah.
Their mental is
their mindset, yeah.
Their mindset. I mean, people will pay a financial advisor money.
Yeah.
People pay a personal trainer money. People pay a mechanic money. People will pay people to do all sorts of things because they know they're not the professional in that area and they want to improve on something. But that's one of the areas that we're like, I don't know about that. I don't need nobody for that.
Yeah.
And I mean, no matter how strong you are in other areas, you'll still get help.
Yeah.
Professional bodybuilders have personal trainers.
Yeah.
I
think also, I really believe that also when it comes to going and getting help, a lot of people are just unaware of how it works and how you're going to get this help and how it can impact you. You think, because we look at it as everything a certain way. If I go to the mechanic, he's going to do this.
Right.
If I go to the personal trainer, he is going to do this. He or she is going to do this. But when I go to the therapist, it's just an unknown. How are they going to do this? What are we going to talk about? They know it's going to hurt because you got to peel back those onions, and we got to get to the root cause of why you feel this way. So it's going to hurt.
Yeah.
But I feel like it's fear. And also, I just don't know how this person is going to do this, right? Because even if I told you we're going to do cognitive behavior therapy, you don't know what that is.
Like, let me Google it real quick.
Yeah. And even if you Google it, it just gives you the black and white. It doesn't give you how we're going to break down everything that you've been through and build you back up.
Yep.
Yeah. So I think that's kind of we got to do a better job at telling people, showing people what we're going to do with therapy.
We also got to do our best to get rid of the negative stigma that comes
Yes.
along with getting help.
Yes.
If you get rid of that, it makes it not that big of a deal.
Mm-hmm.
Because people don't talk about the fact that they go to therapy.
Yeah.
Like, you rarely hear people will talk about every other piece of help they get. Yeah, just change the stigma. And I think that talking about it and making it normal makes it normal.
Yeah.
It makes it normal because then you talking about it, get someone else to think about it. You're like, maybe I should go to marriage. Maybe that's not a bad idea.
Yeah.
Because it doesn't hold a stigma when you talk about it casually. When you talk about it like it's everything else. Yeah, my personal trainer told me I needed to, stop eating, Hardee's and Wendy's.
Yeah.
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 I mean, people talk about that and it's like nothing.